Welcome to RFD-TV Live, an informative and interactive hour featuring topics and products of interest to rural America, with expert guests on hand to answer your questions or discuss your feedback. And now, RFD-TV Live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to RFD-TV Live. It's SFPLive. And this evening, we're talking about the fact that quality forage starts with quality nutrition. And as many folks in animal agriculture or those who serve animal agriculture have found in working with the SFP products, they're able to get results, deliver a quality product because of it. We will talk with some of those folks here over the next hour, and as is always the case, a little bit later on in the broadcast, we'll offer you the opportunity to call in and share some comments, results you've had, or ask some questions too from our panel of experts. A couple of familiar faces here in the studio with us on SFP Live this evening. Dave Schwartz over there at the far end, National Products Manager for SFP. Hello, young man.
Hello, Max.
Welcome back.
It's a pleasure to be back.
And Dr. Larry Sanders,
Max, good to be here with you.
Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of SFP. You are on this broadcast almost as much as I am, it seems.
I think we kind of share that, don't we?
Well, we do, and I always look forward to it. It's great to get the perspective, your scientific perspective, describing what action these products take, and both of you have results, great results, producer results from all over the country, and it's gratifying to hear from producers, isn't it?
That's right, Max. Producers really drive these products. I mean, in the past, we've seen producers talk about the products and use the products, and they're the ones that keep this product line going.
Well, we're also going to have a guest on the telephone this evening joining us. Will VanNostran is joining us on the telephone. He is in New Mexico, Clovis, New Mexico. Will is the president of Mountain States Consulting and works with a lot of producers, I guess, over a wide geography of the country. Welcome to the broadcast, Will. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you, Max. Thanks for the introduction.
Tell us, first of all, a little bit about your practice and how you, in fact, you do partner with producers.
Well, I've been practicing in the consulting field on specifically dairy for the last 20 years, Max, and I've got a broad base of background in dairy and beef, and I just want to go through a couple slides, and then when we're ready to do that, I can do that. So it's up to you, Max. Just go ahead and lead the way.
Well, let's indeed head right into some of those slides that show some of the results that are possible. The importance, talk about the importance of fertility and the importance of forage quality as you've addressed it in your consultancy.
Well, how it works, Max, is the higher quality forages will always give you higher producing animals, whether it's for beef and for milk. So it's very, very important to have high-quality forages. And that goes back to, basically starts with the seed and goes into the cropping and the fertilization program you have. And so the uptake, the nutrients are the best available for the plant for proper growth of the material itself as well as the seed.
So the fertility, the nutrient management are crucial ultimately to the quality of the feed and the results from those animals.
Yes, that's correct, Max.
Well, let's take a look at some of those slides that you have, and I know also you're focusing on handling of the product after you've brought that crop in from the field too. So there's some good guidance you're passing along to the folks in animal agriculture this evening.
Yes.
On
the first slide, it basically demonstrates the proper formation of a pack, a silage pack, and a tractor on pushing up some silage. Happens to be corn silage, and you want to push no more than 8 inches at a time. And the University of Madison, Wisconsin has several different equations for the packing rate and the amount of packing you need to do on a material based on the pack rate and the fill rate.
All right. What's your next slide here?
And it goes into the next slide. Once you've properly formed your pile, and you have the proper pack on it, you want to make sure that you cover the pile properly. And you want to make that pile so that it's a drive-over pile from all different directions and angles. So you got a firm pack on there. And going into the third slide, it shows the density that you want to achieve and the respective loss of that density if it's not properly packed on the right side of that chart. And typically what we see on the field for both feedlot industry and dairy is 15 to 16. And the closer you get that to 20, Max, the less dry matter loss you'll have over a 180-day period. And that, once again, that's documented at the University of Madison.
So the higher density, the less loss.
That's correct.
And I suppose it's good to remind producers by all means that it's hardly of value to produce a quality forage if you don't store it properly. I mean, if you lose the value through improper storage, it's almost all for naught, isn't it? That's
correct. And producers could lose millions of dollars just by improperly packing the material. And like I said, Max, there's a when you bring in, there's a fill rate and a pack rate, and it depends on how many cutters you have bringing the material, cutting material, and bringing it into the pile. You can overload the system. Typically, what I see out in the Southwest there is if you got 2 cutters, you're going to need probably 2 pushers and 3 or 4 packing tractors.
Is that right?
That's correct. To do it properly, yes.
Let's take a look at the next slide that you've prepared for us. That, too, shows some interesting data there, and perhaps it merits some explanation when it comes up on the screen so that producers can fully understand it.
Yes, what we have here, Max, is on the x-axis, there's 2 different fiber components. Let's step back a little bit. There's 2 fiber components on all forage. You got acid detergent fiber, and this particular slide on the bottom x-axis shows that. The other component is neutral detergent fiber. That's not particularly on this slide. But those 2 components are very, very important when it comes to forage quality, and they're set based on maturity and the growth of that plant and the nutrients that are available in the soil. And what this chart demonstrates here, as the acid detergent fiber and or the fiber of a plant increases, the digestible dry matter, which is on the y-axis, the DDM, and the TDN, which is the total digestible nutrients, they both decrease as the plant matures and as it takes up less nutrients from the soil.
So it's crucial to the digestibility and the energy also.
That's correct. That's correct. And going to the next slide, Max, as you see, continuing, this shows NDF fraction, and NDF is directly related to the intake of that forage. And as the acid detergent fiber and the NDF increase, not only do you lose the quality of the forage and the productivity of the animal, but you also that animal is not able to eat enough dry matter intake. So dry matter intake for both beef and dairy decreases as that plant matures and loses digestibility.
And the result is they eat less.
That's correct, Max. That's correct. And because they eat less, you get less meat, you get less milk.
And is there one more slide that you have there?
Yes, I have 2 more slides. And the next slide, basically, this one has to do with milk yield, but it actually is relative to production of beef on the NEG. And on the bottom x-axis, it shows NDFD, which is a neutral detergent fiber that's digestible, NDFD. So the portion of the NDF that's digestible, as that increases on the bottom as it goes towards 70, Max, the yield, the milk yield increases basically from 72 pounds to 92 pounds of milk. So it's very important not only to make sure you have a good quality plant that's growing with the nutrients that are available, but you want to make sure that the nutrients in there are digestible. So the more digestible the plant is, the more potential for milk and meat.
And finally, the takeaway from all of this that we need to keep in mind is basically there are 3 key components here that you've addressed, right?
Yes, Max. It's kind of what I kind of created here at Mountain States Consulting is the 3 R's, forages, and those 3 R's relate to cut right, which has to do with the stage of maturity and the moisture, pack right, which is the density, and typically you want to shoot for something that's higher, a pile that's higher than 15 pounds of dry matter per cubic foot. And then you want to store right. You want to cover it properly. That's in a nutshell, the 3 R's of high-quality forages.
Well, excellent. We appreciate your rather quick, short course there that we've asked you to share with us, but some great insight for the producers and certainly with bottom line impact. Coming back to you, Dave and Larry, let's talk a bit about SFP's products and how they fit into the whole picture here to help assure the results ahead of the packing and storage that are essential.
Well, when it comes to the forages, the first thing, we have had tremendous response of the AVAIL and NutriSphere-N products on creating higher TDNs and higher protein quantities in these forages. It's been remarkable, but it only makes sense. And Larry, I guess it goes back to the science you created here. We build a bigger factory in that plant underneath the ground, and it's going to produce a better quality product above ground. And Larry, you want to comment a little bit why that happens?
Well, absolutely, Dave. You know, well, we manufacture the NutriSphere-N product for nitrogen because farmers can typically lose anywhere from 30 to 50% of their nitrogen due to volatilization, due to nitrification, or that change from ammonium-type nitrogen into nitrates, which can leach on you and can also denitrify under waterlogged conditions. And you know, last year we probably had some of those farmers that were losing 50% of their nitrogen because of the high rainfall that we had in many areas. And then the other thing is the AVAIL. The AVAIL chemistry is a phosphorus fertilizer enhancer. Typically, we can lose anywhere from 75 to 95% of our phosphorus due to fixation in the soil. The phosphorus ties up with elements like iron, calcium, magnesium. And what happens is it forms a very insoluble precipitate. That precipitate does not come back out of solution. So the plant doesn't get it. So we're losing the efficiency of that phosphorus fertilizer. 75 to 95% of it's gone. The plant's left with about 25 to maybe even 5%. So it's a huge loss economically to the farmer, but it's even a huger loss to crop yields.
Well, VanNostran, if you're still there with us on the line, let me come back to you for just a moment in regard again to those three legs of the stool that you addressed earlier. Back to the production side, have some of your producers had experience in utilizing the SFP products?
Yes, as a matter of fact, Max, we've had some great success with those products in the last 3 years. I specifically have a particular account in the panhandle of Texas. We've seen a dramatic improvement of the digestibility and the tonnage and starch availability of those particular forages that we're grazing with the SFP technology. And we've been able, Max, to use this technology SFP has to improve not only the abundance of the forage that we're able to grow, but the quality of the forage that we're growing. So we're actually able to produce a lot more milk at that particular dairy.
Yeah. Dave, I saw you nodding your head over there, and when he addressed specifically the quality of the forage, it's quantity and quality we're seeing, right?
And as we learned tonight, managing that after you get it.
Right.
And to produce a better quality product, we're going to show you some results here that we've got in database from all over the forage capitals of the country, and we're going to show you some quality photos as well. But I think the bottom line is what Will said. It's all about producing more with less, and we can create more forage with a better quality. You don't have to feed as much of it, and it lasts longer and puts more meat on that dairy, or more milk out of the dairy animal, and more meat out of that beef animal out there. That's what farmers are after, and that's what gets us excited at SFP, being able to produce more with less.
Well, I like the fact that we're addressing the whole picture here this evening, the production, the packing, the storing. Will, I understand there's a possibility you might be participating in a webinar in the future with the folks from SFP, and that would be great if you could then, via that mode, share some insight with our growers out there. That'll be publicized, I believe, on the SFP website when the time comes, right?
Yes, and we hope to do that here in the near future.
Very good.
Real soon.
Yes, that's correct, Max. I'll be participating in that. And one of the other things that my consulting firm brings to the party, I work closely with Forage Genetics International, specifically Winfield Solutions, and they supply the seed generally with the cropland genetics. And we've seen tremendous success with the cropland SFP partnership there and the collaboration of all of us working together, basically from the seed to the ground, to the nutrients that are available through the SFP technology with the starch and digestion availability that we're using from the Cropland Forage International genetics. It's bringing a lot of things together for our producers to help them be profitable.
Hey, we sure appreciate your contributing to the broadcast this evening, Will. Tell everybody around Clovis we said hello, all of our good RFD-TV viewers there.
I sure will. Thank you, Max, for having me on.
Will VanNostran, he's the president of Mountain States Consulting. As you heard him say, consulting with a lot of folks out there to increase the value of their forage, do the best job they can with it in not only producing good quality forage, but packing it correctly, storing it correctly, with the ultimate goal, of course, of improving the profitability, especially for those dairy folks. We have some great testimonials to share with you, too, this evening. Let's take a look at what some other producers are saying.
Unfortunately, our winter rains prevent us from getting in to put on a timely phosphate application. And because I've coupled the AVAIL with my phosphate program, that's enabled me to go right now, put the phosphate where it needs to be, and because of the benefits of AVAIL, it'll be protected so as when it starts warming up next spring, my grass will be popping out and coming early. So that's the benefits I see from putting on a liquid program plus the AVAIL on my coastal Bermuda. When we moved into the AVAIL treated area on the Bermuda patch, we had to actually slow down. Our RPMs were working good, the baler was working great, but we just had too much volume of hay going into that baler, and so we had to slow down one full gear to maximize our consistency on those bales. So that's what we really liked to see. That tells me that the runners on the grass was a lot thicker, and the volume and quality of grass hay that we were cutting was better. And what's really nice, when we opened that bale up, the flakes were very uniform. What we've seen since we've used both the AVAIL and the NutriSphere in our fertilizer program is this, is we come in, we've applied our phosphate in the fall, we do our nitrogen with a weed control program, and then we'll cut probably about the late part of May. And what we were having before we started using this program, we'd still see a slowdown, and so it may take 40 days before we would get a cutting. This way, when we use the stack program, when we cut that hay, it looks like after we cut it, picked it up the next day, you can already see it growing up again. So we've shortened that window up to about a 30-day window of cutting. And so that's helped us significantly on getting a quality regrowth.
We did use a AVAIL on our alfalfa, or we are continuing to use on a circle of alfalfa that we have, and basically I don't really measure the bales coming off, but just going by number of bales we got, I thought we increased 50 to 100 bales in the first year that we used the AVAIL to what we had been using the previous years, and just saw a healthier, thicker leaved alfalfa and really green crop out there.
I'm a big believer in NutriSphere and AVAIL. It's really improved our forage qualities quite a bit. We've been using both products now for about 4 years, and our protein on the same products from years prior have increased, and so has the digestibility. I think it's been a big key to our plants staying healthier longer. They go through less stress because of these two products. With AVAIL, we've seen a huge increase in that winter growth and the root system with our small grain first. And then, of course, we applied the nitrogen and we made all this for forage. And the first crop of wheat that we cut, where we used nitrogen treated with NutriSphere versus some that we didn't, we had an increase in 3 tons per acre on that crop, and that's huge on small grains, because in this area we were averaging about 7 tons, but where we used the NutriSphere we got 10 tons. But the big difference is there were 2% more protein in that feed. So the quality was much better and the tonnage was better. So it was made us a big believer in it. By growing better crops, increasing the nutritional value in our crops, that's the pure profit at the end of the day. So we have to keep increasing our crop ability to get our nutrients even higher in those plants. And these two products are the two things that have improved more than anything, the AVAIL and NutriSphere, in increasing the values of our feedback. The more forage we can feed our cattle and less grain, the better health our cows have, the less veterinarian bills we have, the less digestive problems. So both of these products, AVAIL and NutriSphere both, have really increased and help us utilize our forages much better.
From North Carolina, from Kansas, from Texas, there you have it, from producers who want to and must produce quality forage, and they're getting a big helping hand from your products. Boy, that has to be gratifying to you to hear the producers who use the SFP products actually saying, all right, this is what it's done for me. I mean, the truth is in the telling, isn't it, from those actual producers.
Absolutely, Max. We've seen this for years, but you know, the product has grown and grown, and forage producers are using quite a bit of it now, so we see those results all the time.
These are unbiased opinions from out there in the field. You know what? I was out there with Reggie Underwood at Waxahachie, Texas, and just to sense his enthusiasm as you're visiting with him, I mean, it really comes across when you're talking there one-on-one. I got quite a tour of Waxahachie, I might add. There's more to come here. We're going to get a Tennessee perspective, and this too is important because of the production of forage in Tennessee. We'll have a guest here joining us in the studio just a few minutes from now. Don't forget, there's the opportunity for you to call in too. I'll tell you more about that when we return on SFP Live.
Get your crops off to a great start. Use Season Pass with AVAIL, your ticket to higher yields. Season Pass, a low-salt starter, is non-corrosive, includes zinc, low application rates, available NPK row starter, and includes AVAIL technology. With as little as 3 to 5 gallons per acre, Season Pass can be applied in furrow, saving precious planting time while maximizing your yields. To get your growing season off to a great start, contact Darren Blank at 812-455-4911.
Improve your pastures from the ground up with the Co-op and NutriSphere-N Nitrogen Fertilizer Manager.
Felt like we got a really good return on NutriSphere this year. We had some of probably the best pastures. Our pastures stayed greener longer this year than probably they ever have since we've been farming. It convinced me this year that I'm a believer in NutriSphere. I'll be using it from now on.
Talk to your local co-op today to add NutriSphere-N to your nitrogen fertilizer order and for all your beef, dairy, and equine needs, or visit them at ourcoop.com.
Hey, coming up after this edition of SFP Live tonight, there will be a webinar online where you can participate and join our panelists there online personally. Here's how you go about doing that. You just go to sfp.com, probably about 5 minutes after we're off the air. Go to sfp.com and you'll go down the page. You'll see a box that says RFD, and you'll click on that. That should take you right into the webinar. It's that simple. And you'll be able to ask some questions personally and exchange comments with our guests. We're joined by one more panelist here in the studio this evening from Tennessee Farmers Co-op. Joining us here, it's a pleasure to welcome Andy Ulmer to the broadcast. Andy, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Good to be here.
We're not going to let you go that easy.
Okay.
We're going to come back in a few minutes and gather a few more comments from you. But I think you've had some experience there over the wide area of the state, where forage production is important, isn't it?
Yes, sir, very important. We have approximately 2 million acres of forage pasture production in the state of Tennessee.
You know, that's kind of a surprising number, to tell you the truth. I had no idea it was that much. 2 million acres.
It's quite large.
It really is. Before we come back to you, I want to just follow up a little bit. You know, we saw Reggie Underwood there a few minutes during his comments a few minutes ago, Dave, there from Waxahachie. And I know you've had some experience in working with him and some additional results perhaps you want to share there.
Yeah, Reggie's a longtime friend and co-worker of mine over the years, and Reggie put out a bunch of plots down there and really has helped us in the Texas area to get the products introduced, because he is also a producer as well as a retailer down there in Waxahachie.
Producing quality Bermuda grass.
He sells Bermuda grass hay as part of his business with his business Arc Feed Store.
To the equine folks.
To horse people, yes.
They're pretty finicky too about quality.
Yes, very particular about their products that they buy. Reggie's very committed to producing a quality product, and that's why he was interested in the AVAIL NutriSphere technology. Now this field here, we have a NutriSphere sign stuck in there, but I called Reggie prior to the show tonight to verify exactly what he did to this field. This is actually AVAIL. He had put AVAIL on in the fall, 60 pounds that he knifed in of 1034-0. This was about a year ago right now, last April 8th, where we're seeing the spring green up. He had not applied his nitrogen yet. You can see that line right there running. That's what the AVAIL product has done in giving him more tillering and a much healthier green up. So that's your phosphorus treated with the AVAIL. And Larry, we see this more time and time again from all of our producers that call us about their forage crops. It's about that green up or regrowth. And why is that happening, Larry?
Absolutely, Dave. Just look at that field. What about the weed control you're going to have on that right-hand side where you don't have plants? I mean, it's going to be a major issue versus where you have a good stand on the left-hand side. you're going to crowd those weeds out where you've got the NutriSphere and AVAIL, and you're going to have better production all over.
And you heard Reggie comment, he took his harvest intervals from 40 days down to 30 days. Now, I've talked to many a producer that when they call us about commenting on their forages, that's one of the big ones. We see the amount of days in between cuttings. That's everything to a forage producer. If he can get one more cutting in that growing season, that's big dollars. And that's what Reggie was talking about here, and it's quite interesting. 5 to 7 days quicker green up in between cuttings. So these products make you money in more ways than one.
Well, Andy, let's talk about Tennessee Farmers Co-op as we introduced you a little bit earlier. Tell us about the co-op to begin with. Who are you folks?
Well, Tennessee Farmers Co-op is a 60-year-old co-op system. We are somewhat unique in the fact that we are a federated co-op, which simply means we are owned by our growers. We're also governed by our growers, a board of representatives of farmers from across the state. We are made up of 57 members, and we have 163 stores scattered across the state of Tennessee. 57
member co-ops are a
yes,
part
sir.
of the larger federated co-op.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk also about your work with SFP then.
Okay, you know, one of the best parts about our job is able to work with new products. Approximately 4 or 5 years ago, I began to work with NutriSphere in rice fields where we're really worried there in the boot heel about volatilization and putting urea out on damp soils. Since then, you know, being a co-op system, we're kind of market driven by our owners, which are the growers, and they began to really study and want us to look at AVAIL and spend some time with both AVAIL and NutriSphere. So we began to do our own studies and collect our own grower testimonials to know how things would actually perform and work for us in the state of Tennessee.
There have been no shortage of successes, I gather.
No, sir. Everything's been good. Everything's been positive.
We'll talk with you a little more about that in a moment. One thing I've noticed in the past, when you guys come in, Larry and Dave, you like to share with us some data and some graphs and some key points in terms of the results that have been achieved and over a wide geography of the country, whether it's New Mexico or Tennessee or all points in between. What do you have for us tonight, Dave?
Okay, we're going to start out in the state of Oklahoma, Max. This is Bermuda grass trial, again, horse hay, just west of Oklahoma City. This is on the Tom Kurska farm. Jerry Kammerer with Banner Co-op was our retailer that we cooperated with here. Again, when we were talking to Will about the crude protein, again, where we've had the NutriSphere-N product on 57 pounds of actual N per acre, 10.9% crude protein versus 9.1 without NutriSphere. The actual yield was about 200 pounds higher. But look at the pounds of protein per acre, 420.95 versus 336. And the big one was the TDN, total digestible nutrients, max 17% increase with the NutriSphere on 57 pounds of nitrogen. Larry, you got any comments about that?
Well, that's what we see. I mean, that's pretty typical of what we see with forages is that we not only increase the yields, but we increase the quality of those forages. That's what a cattleman and a dairy person can take advantage of.
The quality makes a difference at the end of the day in terms of milk production?
Absolutely.
And also
in beef production.
Yeah, rate of gain?
Yeah.
What else do you have for us?
All right, next we're going to go to the state of Missouri. And, you know, stockpiled fescue is a big market in that state. We did some trials with the University of Missouri, Dr. Kallenbach, and we were comparing ammonium nitrate, ammonium sulfate, and urea plus NutriSphere-N and ESN, all 4 different products, looking for what we could find at 75 pounds of actual N with each one of these products, where they had no nitrogen at all, 1,721 pounds. You can see ammonium nitrate, which has been a standard in this pasture industry for years. Ammonium sulfate outperformed it a little bit, but the NutriSphere with urea, normally the urea is not considered something, volatilization is really a big factor in this over-the-top market, and the invention of NutriSphere-N has made urea a very, very viable nitrogen source in these pastures. And Larry, we hear that a lot, don't we?
Absolutely. It's not only competitive with all the other nitrogen products, but it outperforms all of them.
And the price per acre. You can buy urea a lot of times much cheaper and be able to treat it with the NutriSphere. I think Andy will talk about that from Tennessee farmers' perspective. I think it's one of the big attractions that we've had with your company is the NutriSphere on the urea.
When you were talking about fescue there, we were talking about coastal Bermuda grass in the instance where we were visiting with Reggie, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter what type. Now we're going to talk about alfalfa. And we'll go to the state of New Mexico, again, where Will's from. This is Pancho Maples is our grower. Pancho, him and his son Ben, or Bird, have worked with us throughout Kansas and New Mexico, different trials. This is real high pH out there, Max. We have lots of phosphorus fixation in these alfalfa trials, but alfalfa is a very huge crop in New Mexico. 125 pounds of MAP applied per acre, and where he included the AVAIL, $7.11 worth of AVAIL, by the way. We ended up with about 850 pounds more alfalfa in just the first 2 cuttings. And he didn't irrigate after that, so I guess he'd made enough money already, Max. So
didn't need to fire up the center pivots, huh?
So, but you know, you look at a $7.11 investment, you're looking at 850 pounds of alfalfa, and you know the alfalfa price is several $100s a ton. You're looking at a very quick way to get a great return, and that doesn't even account for the total digestible nutrient increase, the protein increases. This is just the raw, you know, the raw yield increase in pounds. So again, alfalfa we like. Looking at the AVAIL and alfalfa, don't we, Larry? We've had
absolutely. And one thing you'll notice from that slide is that you got just as good a yield increase from the second cutting as you did from the first cutting. So that AVAIL is working season long out there on the ground, making sure that that phosphorus doesn't get tied up.
And the cuttings are coming quicker.
Absolutely.
They're coming quicker, and the other thing is the regrowth is with more phosphorus available, you're able to get that crop back out of the ground going again. That's where it really proves its value. Next, we're going to go to Kansas.
Kansas.
One of your favorite states, you were telling me, Max. Kansas is a big brome grass state, lots of cattle running across that state. This comes to us from Harveyville Seed Company in Harveyville, Kansas. These folks did their own independent studies this year, and this is what we call a stacking trial, Max, where they are running the NutriSphere-N on their nitrogen and the AVAIL on their phosphorus. They run 25 pounds of actual P out on their brome. They come back with 75 pounds of N with NutriSphere-N. And as you can see, this almost mirrors the Kansas State trials that Dr. Barney Gordon did, where we're looking at about a 3,000 pound increase in production on brome grass. You take the current price of brome grass this year at $80 a ton. It's $101.27 an acre return after paying the $12.01 investment in the AVAIL NutriSphere-N.
Just for clarification, you use the term stacking.
Yes.
Meaning you use both products.
That means that it doesn't have to go in the same application. It can be anytime you apply the phosphate application, it needs to have the AVAIL on it. It can be a fall application, spring application, liquid or dry. Then the nitrogen application must contain NutriSphere either in the UAN form or the urea form. But as long as they're on that same acre in that same cropping season, that's what stacking is all about.
And New Hampshire even, you have some results to share with us.
We don't want to leave anybody out tonight. From our good friends over in the Southern States group over there, Laws Farm Supply, Lancaster, New Hampshire. Silage, when you talk about forage, and you know, Will mentioned that here earlier tonight, using the AVAIL and NutriSphere program in starter fertilizer on their silage corn, 5 tons increase. We see a lot of these, again, that's building a bigger plant, keeping more N supplied to it to fill those ears out, more foliage on that plant from uptake of phosphorus and nitrogen. Larry, it's pretty synonymous, isn't it, where we see this all over?
Absolutely, and if you look at those yields, about 25 tons is going to equal 150 bushels of corn. So you can see that's a pretty good corn yield even.
So we're seeing results with a wide variety of forages.
Yes, and of course the thing that gets us really excited is, you know, with all these dairy and crops, there's manure produced from all of these animals, and that's our next area that we're moving into is treating the value of the fertility in the manure. And we're excited about what we're working on in that arena right now, and we've got a product out called More Than Manure in a test market right now, so those of you dairy producers or beef producers that are listening tonight would like to do a trial with us on that, we would like to have you get a hold of your local dealer and get involved in our next area of research, and that is treating the value of manure with these chemistries.
Excellent. Stay tuned, as they say, right? There's some exciting news to come there. And we did talk a little bit about the Bermuda grass in Texas a little bit earlier.
Yeah, this is the last trial we've got from Cuero, Texas. Leo Henneman, our producer down there, at our dealer at DeWitt County Producers Co-op, he run this trial with urea NutriSphere-N on Gordo Blue Stem Coastal Bermuda grass. That's quite a mix there. You can see he had over 1,000-pound increase per acre. That is just a typical increase that we see by protecting the nitrogen, giving you longer season utilization of that ammonium nitrogen. And great response. We did find out Leo's really going to get after it this year and run a whole bunch more NutriSphere on a lot more acres in his area.
Well, we often find when we discuss these subjects on SFP Live, we get a lot of producer interest. And if you'd like to call in, let me give you the telephone number right now. We welcome your calls here on SFP Live. The phone number is 877-731-6733. Perhaps you've participated in some of the trials that have taken place there. You've worked maybe with your local co-op or your supplier. 877-731-6733. And while in the past we've talked a lot about a variety of crops from corn, soybeans, wheat, we're focusing principally on forages tonight, but there's a great story, as we've said, across a wide variety of crops and quite an interesting geography, including, as we were talking a little bit earlier with Andy, Tennessee, where a couple of producers share their insight with what's happened with their fields.
We got about 900 acres here. It's a combination of a beef operation and some row crop. We used to be a dairy farm, but we've got out of the dairy business and got into the beef business in a big way now. In 2010 was the first year we was introduced to NutriSphere, and we was real hesitant about, trying something like this because there's so many snake oil salesmen out there. You got to worry, whether or not this money's going to really return. And we felt like we got a really good return on NutriSphere this year. We had some of probably the best pastures. Our pastures stayed greener longer this year than probably they ever have since we've been farming. In 2010, May 1st, I know a lot of people are aware of the Nashville flood, which we obviously got a lot of that water here, and we got flooding here. And I had some corn that I had planted right at the first week of April. And it was tall enough that the water still covered it up, and it was 40 acres. And we was worried that we was going to lose all our fertilizer. We ended up losing the corn. We had to replant the corn. We replanted in about the second week of May, I guess, is when we replanted that field. And normally when we replant corn like that, we go in and put down about 50% of the fertilizer we initially put down, because we figure we've lost a lot of it due to the flood water taking it away, taking it too deep in the soil and stuff like that. Well, this year we was told that with the NutriSphere, you probably wouldn't have that problem. We was real skeptical about it, so we still planted without putting any fertilizer down, adding any more. Then, whenever the corn got a little over head high, we went in there and pulled tissue samples and sent them off to check the nitrogen level, just because we figured, well, we could still go in and top dress and just increase our amount we've top dressed with over normal. And actually, it showed that the nitrogen level was high enough we didn't even need to top dress any. The corn, we lost a lot of our chemicals. We had high pressure with bird cucumbers. Anybody that lives in creek bottom land knows what bird cucumbers are. And they about choked the corn out. Of course, the corn is too tall at that time to spray whenever they start growing. And even with all that high pressure and stuff, we still yielded over 175 bushel corn off that field without having to top dress. It convinced me this year that I'm a believer in NutriSphere. I'll be using it from now on.
On this farm, we have always been, we've always had a diversified cropping mix. We've grown, most years we'll have corn, soybeans, wheat, and cotton. We are continuous no-till. We've been no-till farming probably since like 1983, 1984. Cotton prices stagnated in the middle of around 2006, 2007. Input costs were steadily going up, and but the food grains, as I call them, wheat, corn, soybeans, began to take off. Those commodity prices went up when cotton remained flat, and people around us began to get more into grain production, which opened the door for us to look at products like AVAIL, because these crops have such a need for phosphate fertilizer. Mid-South Farmers Co-op came out. We discussed how we're going to do it. We took a field. It's about 20 acres. We split the field. We put the same fertilizer blend across the field. The difference was at the midpoint on half the field, it was just my usual DAP, potash, and nitrogen. But at that same midpoint going the other direction, they added the AVAIL. They treated the DAP with AVAIL. And I was still pretty skeptical. I was. I said, and even when the guys came along middle of the summer and they said, well, we've been out in your field, and, they'd pulled up some corn plants and they cut them and showed me, look how big around the diameter of this plant this one is compared to that one, and all these things, and they were excited. Because see, bottom line to me as a farmer, it doesn't mean anything if we don't see a yield difference. I mean, the plants can be greener, the stalks can be bigger. It's any number of things. To me, that's more cosmetic look. So it only will mean something if when we get to the end of the day, when we combine it, we see a yield difference. Well, that day did come, and so again, the only thing different was the AVAIL. I mean, like I said, as we planted it and managed the crop, we harvested the crop also. We brought a weigh wagon out, and we checked it, and the first side-by-side AVAIL treated, the treated versus the untreated, I'll be honest, I mean, it was around 20 bushels an acre difference. And, you see that kind of difference. But we did another check, and it was a little bit better. It was a little more, the difference is even more so. And so this was enough for me to think, this really might be something to this. There was such a difference in the corn that I thought it was, that I felt like it was significant enough to where I would put more AVAIL over more of my acres in 2011. You're not going to be convinced until you for yourself can see a difference. And you go, oh yeah, there is a difference here.
Very interesting to hear what Richard had to say there. Oh, and Andy, when we were listening a little bit ago to David, I thought it was interesting. From the flooding, he lost his corn, he lost his crop protection chemicals, but because of NutriSphere-N, he hadn't lost his nitrogen.
Exactly right. And another point we didn't bring up, again, we had a really extreme season to test these products. Even after that 15 to 20 inches of rain.
It was a hot summer, too.
Right, and we went 45 days without a rain in some of these counties. So we really got to test the ability of NutriSphere, even though for the guys that went out after the flood and put on their end, because it lay there so long.
Over a variety of conditions.
Yes.
Interesting. Well, we're going to offer you the opportunity to call in on SFP Live. Again, our telephone number is 877-731-6733. 877-731-6733. We invite your call wherever you are in America. We'll be back on this edition of SFP Live.
Get your crops off to a great start. Use Season Pass with AVAIL, your ticket to higher yields. Season Pass, a low-salt starter, is non-corrosive, includes zinc, low application rates, available NPK row starter, and includes AVAIL technology. With as little as 3 to 5 gallons per acre, Season Pass can be applied in furrow, saving precious planting time while maximizing your yields. To get your growing season off to a great start, contact Darren Blank at 812-455-4911.
Get your pastures off to a good start this season with NutriSphere-N, Nitrogen Fertilizer Manager. As much as half of your nitrogen fertilizer is lost before your pasture and hay fields can use it. NutriSphere-N protects your nitrogen fertilizer investment, reduces volatilization and leaching, increasing your usable nitrogen. Help your herd receive better quality forage, and research shows increases in tonnage by adding NutriSphere-N. Talk to your fertilizer dealer today about NutriSphere-N or contact us at NutriSphere-N.com.
So maybe it'll work for you after the broadcast this evening, about 5 minutes after we sign off, to go online and participate in the webinar. Your participation would be welcome. You just go to the website, www.sfp.com. Then scroll down the page, you'll see a box there that says RFD. Click on it. That'll take you right into the webinar. You can participate with our guests after the broadcast this evening. You can participate live now via the telephone, and just as Dale is going to do so from Ohio. Hi, Dale.
Hi.
Welcome to the broadcast. What's your question or comment?
I've been using NutriSphere for the past 3 years with urea as a top dress on my corn, and this year I'm considering using 32% liquid nitrogen. I wondered if that's something you could use NutriSphere with.
Well, if you're going to, hopefully you're going to side dress the UAN.
Yeah.
If you're going to go.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
Yeah,
Dale, we've had some really positive results with NutriSphere-N on UAN side dress. In a lot of cases, every bit as good a response there as we've had going with it over the top. So whether you dribble it or you knife it in, we've had responses in that 8 to 20 bushel. It's the timing of the year. We have a lot of nitrogen loss issues at work during that time phase, so it's a great idea to protect that side dress.
And Dale, just remember one thing, or two things really. It's a different product for liquids, so you need to use the liquid product for NutriSphere. And also, it's a different concentration. It's 0.5% instead of 0.25%. So you need to consider those two things when you're using NutriSphere on your liquids.
You guys both make a great tag team here. The way you interact, we appreciate it so much. Let's go from Ohio to Michigan. Hi, Teresa.
Hi there.
Go right ahead.
Hi, my husband and I are watching your show, and we wondered if we can use the NutriSphere-N on our lawn to help our lawn grow.
Well, I use it on mine, and it works really well. Might ought to make sure you have your blade sharpened pretty good, though, because it will turn your grass green. And another thing it does, it just keeps it green all through the summer. You may go through some really heat periods with low moisture, but it'll still keep your grass green on into the fall. So it's a great product. There's several vendors out there that are selling AVAIL and NutriSphere for lawns and gardens.
Do you have some experience with commercial turf producers also utilizing your products, Dave?
Oh, absolutely. We've been working with quite a few, and you know, when we're growing turf, the professional turf growers, we got actually the company that services the White House and many of the venues around Washington, D.C. and racetracks, Richmond racetrack. These folks are putting the AVAIL NutriSphere on their sod that they grow for commercial turf and getting pretty much premiums for the quality of sod that they're producing. And they're able to, just like we heard in the earlier tonight, turn it around faster. The regrowth, to be able to grow more sod, that's big bucks. And to be able to grow another cutting faster over a year and a half's time, that's what we'll be able to accomplish with the AVAIL and NutriSphere.
Iowa is our next destination here on SFPLive. Hello, Jeff.
Hi, Max. Yeah, my question is, guys, with NutriSphere on urea, I was wondering, I guess in two different applications. The one would be putting urea down on no-till corn on corn, and then also the urea NutriSphere in a side dress application. How long is the nitrogen tied up, or in other words, how long until it is available to the crop?
That's a good question.
Yeah, well, NutriSphere is a coating that goes on granular nitrogen products, and it's water soluble, so it's not tied up at all. When you put it on the soil or you disc it into the soil, then it's going to be available. That nitrogen is going to be available from the time you put it out, but it's going to be protected so that nitrogen won't be lost to volatilization, won't be lost to denitrification and leaching through the nitrification process. So it gives you a lot of advantages in being able to use nitrogen and adjust your timing the way you want to do it instead of the way you've been made to do it in the past.
You know, that's one thing we visited about on previous broadcasts is the fact that you do have some options. And I understand, Andy, that's one thing that appeals to some producers in your state of Tennessee. It gives them some other options.
It is an option. It is an option. We can use urea treated with NutriSphere and get really good results as a source of nitrogen in all crops, but especially in our forages too. Yes, sir.
Just one comment, Max, to Jeff there from Iowa. I know it's confusing as a grower. You look at these different products that are being offered as nitrogen enhancements. But the other thing is it goes to work right away. You don't have a delay in having to wait for something to happen, break down for that nitrogen to be available. The nitrogen is available as soon as you apply it. It's a protectant that stops the enzymes from breaking it down. So it's a different mechanism than some of the other products on the market.
Well, I thought it was interesting listening to David and Richard a while ago. They pointed out something that truly many producers encounter, the quote snake oil salesman out there. The thing that I admire, having gotten to know you folks and your product over the years, it's science-based. You know, there's no trickery here. I mean, and truly the proof is in the producer experience.
You're looking at the man right here that invented them. And
we spent a lot of time before we ever went out and sold 1 ounce of AVAIL or NutriSphere. As a matter of fact, we started the company in 1998, and it was 2005 or so before we ever sold any product. We made sure that we tested it not only through university system, but also with our beta producers out in the field, those farmers and those dealers that use our products and test them for us. So we went through a rigorous process because all of our reputations were on the line to make sure that we had a product that was reliable, that farmers could make money off of, and that's it.
They were tried by third-party, unbiased, no agenda scientists in many instances when you look at the university system, and that's one thing that I think is powerful testimony. Let's go to New York. Bob, you're on the line with us here on SFP Live. Hello there.
Hello.
Welcome. Go right ahead.
I'm a crop manager for a farm. It's about a 5,000 acre farm in New York State, and we're thinking about using NutriSphere and AVAIL on our corn and soybeans and alfalfa. My question would be on the liquid fertilizer, what's the proper way to mix AVAIL and NutriSphere onto the phosphorus and nitrogen starter mix?
Well, Bob, the first thing, I take it that you're mixing the two together?
Yes.
Okay. That is a great question, and I'm glad you asked it, because one thing we can do when you have phosphorus 1034O or 1137O mixed with UAN 28 or 32% solution, you'll treat the phosphorus portion of that mix, the gallons of 1034O, with 2 quarts per 100 gallons of the AVAIL product. After that, then you can add 2 quarts per 100 gallons of the NutriSphere-N product to treat that nitrogen source. So your total mix going to the field should not exceed 2 quarts per 100 of the 2 products in combination. So just to make things simple, 1,000 gallon, if you had 500 gallons of 1034O and 500 gallons of 32% in that, you'd dump 2.5 gallons of AVAIL and 2.5 gallons of NutriSphere and give you 5 gallons per 1,000 of both products.
One last stop here before we get away from you this evening. Let's go to Oregon, where Gary is watching SFP Live. Gary, go right ahead.
Yes, I enjoy your program, and I'm watching it now, and I don't know anything about this product, but is it a liquid product or is it a granular product?
All right, sir. Thanks for the question. Go right ahead, Dave.
These products are in the liquid form. They're in the liquid form, but we have a formulation for liquid fertilizers and one for dry fertilizers. And you're out there in Oregon. We've got some very good dealers out there in your part of the world. Anybody attached to the Simplot organization out there in your part of the world would be more than happy to talk to you about where to get these products.
Well, we're just about out of time this evening. Before we sign off and head toward the webinar, I'd like to come back to each of you for just about a half minute for a little summary comment. And Andy, in your case, with Tennessee Farmers Co-op, your producers certainly are seeing results, I gather.
Yes, sir. We're seeing results. You know, and Max, what we strive to do is really maximize fertilizer efficiency. That's our job, to look out for our growers. And so we want to look at these products and look at them hard and pay attention to them. We've collected a lot of data this year, but probably the best results we've seen are when growers come up to meetings and say, hey, we actually could see things in our field and we saw results. Again, you can get on ourcoop.com and look at any of our locations. There'll be a map there that'll guide you to our locations that handle these products. We'll also have testimonial data on YouTube, and we're also available on Twitter or Facebook. So
Again, your website?
www.rcoop.com.
Very good. Quick comment from you, Dave, about a half minute here as we wrap up the broadcast. In summary, you'd say?
Well, Max, we're getting ready to go to the field in many parts of the country. It's been a long winter, and you've had a lot of time to think about what you're going to do. A lot of you are getting ready to apply fertilizer. My parting statement to you is you've got an opportunity to protect that investment this year. We've told you all winter long about how these products can make you more money, and now's the time to do it. For a few dollars or a bushel or two of corn, it's time to protect your investment and let Mother Nature, whatever she wants to do, you can rest assured you're going to have a crop.
Dr. Sanders, we know risk management is so crucial to the producers. Now, this is one more risk that the growers can manage.
Absolutely. We can take away that risk of losing those fertilizers, Max, both the nitrogen through volatilization, the phosphorus being fixed in the soil, huge losses not only in economics, but also in the yields that farmers receive at the end of the year. So control your fertilizers, use AVAIL for your phosphate, and use NutriSphere-N for your nitrogen to make sure you get good efficiency.
Larry, Dave, Andy, thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it, and we invite you folks to join them on the webinar coming up. You just go to SFP.com and click on the RFD box. Thanks for being with us here on SFP Live. I'm Max Armstrong. So long.